We grant the extension of time in respect of the finding of contempt in Leeds Crown Court and allow the appeal against that finding for the detailed reasons set out in the judgment, essentially because the process was flawed.
1 minute ago, British politics crossed a line it may never recover from. King Charles III and Prime Minister Keir Starmer have just clashed in a way that hasn't been seen in modern history, and the fallout could rewrite Britain's future in real time. A leaked confrontation, a monarch breaking centuries of silence, and a Prime Minister lashing out at the Crown itself. What you're about to hear isn't just politics as usual, it's the story of a government unravelling, a monarchy stepping into dangerous territory, and a nation being pulled toward the edge of chaos. It began with whispers inside Westminster that quickly erupted into a full-blown political earthquake. At 6:47 p.m. last night, reports surfaced of a secret meeting inside Buckingham Palace, a meeting so unprecedented that historians are already calling it the most dangerous breach of royal neutrality in 300 years. According to 3 senior palace insiders, King Charles personally summoned Keir Starmer to a private audience, not to exchange pleasantries or ceremonial curtsies, but to confront him over comments the Prime Minister made earlier this week. Those comments, captured in a leaked cabinet transcript, accused the monarch of meddling in democracy and described his actions as reckless. For a British leader to utter such words about the Crown is extraordinary. But what happened when Starmer entered the palace pushed this story into the realm of the explosive. Multiple witnesses describe a heated exchange that spiralled far beyond protocol. Starmer, red-faced and visibly shaken, is said to have told the king directly, "The monarchy serves at the pleasure of Parliament." Not the other way around. For a Prime Minister to speak those words inside royal walls is being described by commentators as nothing short of political suicide. And here's where the story takes an even darker turn. Just minutes after Starmer left the palace, an anonymous source leaked audio from the meeting. The recording, lasting just 39 seconds, contains a sentence that is now detonating across Britain like dynamite. The voice of King Charles, unmistakable, is heard saying, "If government refuses to protect Britain's traditions, then Britain must consider new leadership." There is no ambiguity in those words. The monarch of the United Kingdom, bound for centuries to silence in political affairs, has just made a statement that can only be interpreted as endorsing political change. Newspapers are calling it the most shocking breach of royal convention since the abdication crisis of 1936. Within minutes, hashtags exploded online. Hashtag CrownFuzz Commons trended worldwide. Starmer betrays Britain hit 1.2 million posts in less than 2 hours. Reform UK, already riding a wave of discontent, seized on the chaos instantly. Nigel Farage stood outside Parliament declaring, "The Crown speaks for the people and the people are speaking louder than ever." By dawn, Reform's website crashed under the weight of new members signing up in record numbers. Donations reportedly surpassed £5 million overnight. The political fallout is immediate and devastating for Labour. Snap polls show 71% of Britons believe Starmer disrespected the monarchy, while 62% now see Reform UK as the true defenders of British tradition. Inside Downing Street, aides describe the atmosphere as nuclear. One senior advisor was overheard saying, "We're finished." The Prime Minister has picked a fight no one in history has ever survived. Cabinet ministers are said to be in open revolt, with at least 4 considering resignation if Starmer refuses to backtrack. But the Prime Minister isn't backing down. At 2:15 a.m, in a closed-door strategy session, he reportedly told his inner circle, "I will not bow to the Crown. Britain is a democracy, not a kingdom." Those words, already leaked to the press, have only deepened the crisis. For millions of Britons who see the monarchy as the living symbol of their national identity, Starmer's defiance isn't seen as strength, it's seen as betrayal. And while King Charles has made no further comment, his silence now roars louder than any speech. Across the nation, the mood is turning. In London, thousands gathered outside Buckingham Palace, waving Union Jacks and chanting, "Defend the Crown." In Manchester, Liverpool and Birmingham, working-class communities once loyal to Labour are voicing disgust. One factory worker told reporters, "My family voted Labour for generations, but spitting on the King is spitting on Britain analysts warn this isn't just about party politics anymore. It's about who represents the soul of the country. And with every passing hour, the balance of power tilts further away from Starmer and toward a movement that claims to speak for Britain's traditions. What happens next could decide not just the future of a Prime Minister, but the survival of Labour itself. The chain reaction from that single leaked audio clip has unleashed chaos across every level of British politics, and the speed of the collapse is staggering. By sunrise, the front pages of every major newspaper screamed with headlines that would have been unthinkable just 24 hours earlier. The King speaks. Starmer's war on the crown, a nation divided. Even The Guardian, traditionally cautious in its coverage of the monarchy, described the situation as the gravest constitutional rupture of the modern age. Markets reacted instantly. The pound fell sharply against the dollar, bond yields spiked, and international investors began whispering about Britain becoming ungovernable. At the same time, Reform UK surged like no party in history. Membership numbers quadrupled in a matter of hours. Offices overflowed with volunteers, and donations from small businesses and wealthy backers alike flooded in. Nigel Farage, long dismissed as a political provocateur, is suddenly being spoken of as the next Prime Minister in waiting. But the true heart of this crisis lies in the streets, where ordinary Britons are making their voices heard with a fury that hasn't been seen in decades. In London, nearly 150,000 people gathered outside Westminster, waving Union Jacks and chanting slogans demanding Starmer's resignation. Police described the atmosphere as tense but overwhelmingly patriotic, with families, veterans and students standing shoulder to shoulder in what many called a march for the crown across social media. Videos of the protests went viral within minutes, drawing millions of views on TikTok and Twitter. Pro-Labour counter-demonstrations, meanwhile, drew only small, scattered groups, often drowned out by chants of "God save the King." Analysts say the optics are devastating for Labour, a party once seen as the champion of the working class, now branded as the enemy of tradition. Inside Downing Street, panic has reached fever pitch. Senior advisers describe the Prime Minister as isolated, defiant and increasingly erratic. Several cabinet ministers are openly questioning his leadership. Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner is said to be deeply uncomfortable with the direction of events, while Chancellor Rachel Reeves has privately warned that Starmer's comments could permanently destroy Labour's electability. Rumours swirl that Shadow Foreign Secretary David Lammy has already been approached by backbench MPs about a potential leadership challenge. One insider described the atmosphere as a government eating itself alive. Meanwhile, the palace remains officially silent, but the symbolism of that silence grows heavier by the hour. Royal watchers note that King Charles has retreated to Balmoral surrounded by trusted constitutional advisers, fueling speculation that unprecedented action may be on the horizon. Some believe the monarch could issue a rare public statement reaffirming his role, while others whisper about possibilities far more drastic. Constitutional scholars warn that Britain has not faced such a moment of instability since the abdication crisis of 1936, and even then the monarchy did not directly confront a sitting prime minister. The stakes could not be higher. Polling released just this morning shows Labour collapsing in key battleground constituencies, with Reform UK overtaking them in 18 seats once considered safe. In Hartlepool, a constituency Labour has held for generations, focus group reveal words like betrayal, shame and disrespect as the overwhelming public perception of Starmer. Perhaps most shocking, 63% of voters now say they would prefer Nigel Farage as Prime Minister over Starmer. For a man long ridiculed as a fringe agitator, this represents one of the fastest political ascents in modern British history. But here's where the situation turns even more volatile. International reaction. Within hours of the story breaking, Canada, Australia and New Zealand issued statements of support for King Charles, emphasising their confidence in the monarchy as the cornerstone of the Commonwealth. The European Union postponed trade negotiations with the UK, citing constitutional uncertainty. The US State Department released a carefully worded statement expressing deep concern about the stability of British governance diplomatic language that signals alarm behind the scenes. For Britain's allies, the question is no longer whether Starmer can survive politically, but whether Britain itself can remain stable as a functioning democracy while its leaders openly clash with the Crown. Financial analysts warn of capital flight if the crisis deepens, while military officials have reportedly expressed unease about the perception of weakness on the world stage. Inside the Labour Party, WhatsApp groups are buzzing with discussions about contingency plans. One group, bluntly titled Save Labour, reportedly has more than 80 MPs discussing potential successors and even the possibility of forcing Starmer out within weeks. Another group, called Damage Control, debates whether a full apology to the King could salvage the situation. Yet everyone knows the truth. An apology at this stage could appear as weakness, while defiance only digs the hole deeper. For Starmer, there are no good options left, only degrees of disaster. The narrative has already crystallised in the public imagination: a king defending tradition, a prime minister tearing at its foundations, and a rival party ready to step into the chaos as the voice of stability. Political historians are warning that if this trajectory continues, Britain could be days away from the most dramatic change of government since World War II. And as each hour passes without resolution, the chaos grows, the pressure mounts, and the possibility of a complete political collapse becomes more real. By midday, the crisis had shifted from shocking to catastrophic as the very foundation of Britain's political order began to crack under the weight of this royal prime ministerial showdown. The sheer speed of events is leaving even seasoned journalists scrambling to keep up, with one BBC correspondent describing the situation as political history unfolding in real time, hour by hour. Inside Labour headquarters, despair has replaced strategy. Internal polling leaked to Sky News shows Labour support plummeting to just 24%, the lowest in nearly 4 decades, while Reform UK has surged to 32%, a lead unthinkable just a week ago. To make matters worse for Starmer, whispers of rebellion within his own ranks are turning into open revolt. At least 52 Labour MPs have reportedly signed onto a letter demanding an emergency leadership meeting, and rumours swirl that several shadow cabinet ministers are preparing coordinated resignations if the Prime Minister refuses to back down. The language being used behind closed doors is brutal. One senior Labour figure, speaking anonymously, told the press, "Keir hasn't just picked a fight with the King, he's picked a fight with Britain itself. And that's a fight you cannot win. But if Labour is imploding, Reform UK is thriving in a way that has stunned even their most optimistic strategists." Nigel Farage, standing in front of a sea of Union Jacks and cheered on by thousands of supporters in Birmingham, gave a speech already being hailed as the defining moment of his career. While others tear down our tradition, as he declared, we stand with them. While others disrespect the Crown, we honour it. This is not about left or right. It is about Britain itself. The crowd erupted, chants of "Defend the Crown" echoing through the city. Clips of the speech spread like wildfire across TikTok, Twitter and YouTube, racking up tens of millions of views, hours within hours. The contrast could not be starker. Starmer isolated, embattled and portrayed as hostile to Britain's most sacred institution, while Farage positions himself as the patriotic defender of unity. This dynamic is now reshaping the political battlefield. Focus groups reveal Labour voters in once safe heartlands like Sunderland and Doncaster openly describing their shift toward Reform UK. One woman in her 50s summed it up in blunt terms: "I've voted Labour all my life, but attacking the King is spitting in our faces. Enough is enough." Such sentiments are spreading rapidly, threatening to redraw the electoral map overnight. Meanwhile, Downing Street is engulfed in chaos. Reports describe shouting matches between senior aides, with some warning the Prime Minister that he may not survive the week. Sue Gray, Starmer's Chief of Staff, is said to have threatened resignation twice in the past 24 hours, only to be persuaded to stay by colleagues desperate to maintain a shred of stability. Yet insiders whisper that her patience is running out. The mood among civil servants is described as funereal. with many fearing the government may collapse entirely if Labour MPs move against their leader. And while Starmer remains defiant, insisting he will not bow to the monarchy, his position is growing more untenable with every passing hour. The silence from Buckingham Palace, however, has become the most powerful weapon in this crisis. By refusing to respond publicly, King Charles has allowed the perception of moral authority to grow around him. Royal correspondents suggest the king is acutely aware of the gravity of the moment, choosing silence as a form of quiet condemnation. But speculation is rife that a statement could come at any time, and if it does, analysts say it may deliver the final blow to Starmer's career. Internationally, the shockwaves continue to reverberate. The Canadian Parliament held an emergency debate with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau pledging his unwavering support for King Charles. In Australia, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese declared, "The monarchy represents stability in times of uncertainty." Even US President Joe Biden, typically cautious in foreign commentary, remarked during a press briefing that "we stand with the institutions of British democracy," a statement widely interpreted as tacit support for the Crown over the current government. Such interventions only deepen Starmer's isolation, portraying him not only as an enemy of tradition at home, but a destabilising figure abroad. Financial markets are reacting accordingly. The pound remains volatile. Foreign investors are pulling back, and ratings agencies have already warned of potential downgrades if political uncertainty persists. For ordinary Britons, the crisis is no longer abstract. It is being felt in their wallets, their bills, and their daily lives. Inflation, already sky high, is compounded by fears of further instability, and energy companies are reportedly bracing for another spike in costs as confidence erodes. Protest movements are swelling. In Manchester, 50,000 gathered in a pro-monarchy rally, waving banners that read "Protect the Crown, Save Britain." In Leeds, former Labour voters openly burned party membership cards, vowing never to return while Starmer remains leader. Online, hashtags like Crown v Starmer and Reform Rising dominate every platform, drowning out Labour's attempts at damage control. The cultural mood has shifted decisively. This is no longer a debate about policy, but about identity, loyalty, and the soul of Britain itself. Constitutional experts warn that if the standoff continues unchecked, Britain could face a full-blown legitimacy crisis, one in which the authority of Parliament and the Crown are set on a collision course. In that scenario, a vote of no confidence in Starmer's government becomes not just likely, but inevitable, potentially triggering the fastest political collapse in modern history. The question now gripping the nation is no longer whether Keir Starmer survives as Prime Minister, but whether Labour as a political force can survive at all. As the crisis deepens, the British political system is beginning to look less like a functioning democracy and more like a pressure cooker on the verge of explosion. By Thursday morning, what had once been whispered speculation inside the corridors of power burst into open warfare on the airwaves. Senior Labour MPs, once loyal to Starmer, are now lining up on live television to distance themselves from the Prime Minister's words. Veteran MP Diane Abbott, normally a fierce defender of Labour unity, stunned viewers by declaring, "In all my years in politics, I have never seen a leader take such a reckless gamble. To attack the monarchy is to attack Britain's very identity." Her comments were echoed by dozens of backbenchers, some openly calling for Starmer's resignation. But perhaps the most damning blow came from within his own cabinet. Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson, a rising star in the party, is rumoured to have privately told colleagues that she is no longer confident in Starmer's leadership. Transport Secretary Louise Haigh is also said to be considering resignation, while Deputy PM Angela Rayner has reportedly held secret meetings with potential successors. The sense of inevitability is growing. Starmer's downfall feels less like a question of if and more like when. Meanwhile, Reform UK continues to capitalise on every misstep with ruthless precision. Within 3 days, they have opened over 50 new constituency offices, flooded social media with patriotic messaging, and positioned themselves as the natural heirs to Britain's disillusioned voters. Farage's strategy is simple but devastatingly effective. Portray Labour as hostile to tradition, the Conservatives as weak and compromised, and Reform as the only force capable of defending the Crown and restoring order. It is a narrative that resonates deeply with communities battered by economic hardship and yearning for stability. One striking example comes from Stoke-on-Trent, where lifelong Labour voters have switched allegiance en masse. A 47-year-old factory worker told reporters, "My family fought for king and country. To hear our Prime Minister disrespect the Crown is like a knife in the back. Reform is the only party that speaks for us now." Such sentiments are not isolated. They are multiplying across Britain's industrial heartlands, the very regions Labour once considered its unshakable base. International reaction too has hardened against Starmer. The Commonwealth, usually cautious in its pronouncements, is now openly signalling solidarity with the monarchy.